This really needs to be clarified because amongst gamers there are a lot of misconceptions, a lot of flawed logic and misunderstanding when it comes to frame rates in video games and how important the frame rate is to the gaming experience. People don't seem to understand why I like more powerful hardware, despite the fact that I don't care much about graphics, even though better graphics are always nice. Now it's my turn to clarify and state the case as to why a higher frame rate is essential for gaming. Graphics aren't that important to a game. Just like an action movie, a good coat of paint is always nice, but if there's no substance, the game will be lacking. We've seen this with lots of indie games, which embrace great game design over ultra-realistic visuals, which is the right way to go. This, I understand fully, and regardless of what platform has more powerful hardware, the games and the experience comes first. This is true, and will always trump graphical fidelity. I would go back and play one of my all-time favorite games, Crash Bandicoot 3, over a lot of stuff that's been released in recent years, despite how the visuals have aged. However, this does not mean that I dislike good hardware. Good hardware is always a plus because it enables developers to flex their muscles, not only when it comes to graphics, but also AI, world design, content, and more. But even more significantly, games have a higher tendency to achieve higher frame rates, with the Goldilocks zone being 60 frames per second, a frame rate that's substantial for gaming, but also economically viable with affordable hardware. A lot of people have misunderstood my recent videos regarding Tomb Raider and the Xbox One, where I've stated how the hardware of the Xbox One seems to be lacking, and as a result, some games have had lower frame rates than their PS4 counterparts, which, unlike resolution or graphics, is actually important as the frame rate is potent to the gaming experience. It is undeniable that a higher frame rate is important to games. This doesn't mean that I hate the Xbox One, not by a long shot, and I still understand that well-designed titles will reign supreme at the end of the day. But higher frame rates are better for a number of reasons. Not only does action appear smoother, but it also aids in faster reaction times, which is vital to particular games such as action games and multiplayer games. Really, it's largely part of the reason why Call of Duty has remained such a popular shooter because graphics aside, the game runs buttery smooth and keeps the action fast at a solid 60 frames per second across all platforms, regardless of 1080p or 720p. The frame rate comes first. This is something Platinum Games also seems to understand. Regardless of how you lean, a higher frame rate is always better, which is partly the reason why I became a PC gamer, because I can always adjust my settings to reach the 60 frames per second mark. My advice to developers is to ensure that 60 frames per second is their goal with every game. Put graphics aside, and focus on ensuring that your game runs buttery smooth in a way that ensures reaction time is not hindered. If every next-gen game ran at 60 frames per second, I would not care about the resolution or graphical fidelity. You can no longer exclaim that the PS4 is better solely because of better hardware, because in this situation, regardless of graphics, both games would feel and play the same, which is all that matters at the end of the day.